Have you read a story in the Draoithe Saga and come away with a classic case of immersion after effect? Let me guess, there are questions which remain unanswered even as the magic expanded, adding another layer to the dream. The grand desire to turn the page to discover what happened next ended with the last leaf turned. If you're asking where the remedy for the book hangover is, you know the answer: read another story. But you aren't ready for the next tale, not yet. The dust needs to settle before you pick up the next volume. So you have found your way here. You aren't alone. Even the author can't get enough. As you hear this, Ophelia Key writes on. But allow me to offer you a possibility, a reflection on the tale you recently finished, and a way to revisit the story to ease the story blues. Welcome to the Draoithe Saga After Party. Warning, spoiler alerts ahead. Turn back now if you wish to read the story blind.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so today we are really getting into something fascinating. We're looking at this source material about an immortal sanctuary called Draoithe. And it's a world where powerful magic isn't just, for casting spells. It seems to fundamentally dictate everything: politics, who people are, their fate. We've got quite a bit of detail here outlining this really unusual supernatural hierarchy, some very strange, intimate alliances forming, and this major defense project that involves ancient druid fire, but also 3D printing. So our mission for you today is to sort of unpack the dynamics of this, accidental kingdom. Who's actually in charge? Why would these incredibly powerful immortals volunteer for eternal service? And what's the real personal cost involved in building up this magical defense system?
It's quite something, isn't it? How the sources lay this all out. This isn't some kingdom founded by, signing papers or holding votes. It feels much more like it's being built by destiny. The material really hammers home that this powerful, ancient magic, kingdom-building magic, is the driving force. And it often seems to just steamroll the personal feelings of the immortals themselves, especially those who aren't big fans of titles and strict hierarchies. They're being molded by the magic, really, not the other way around.
Yeah, let's start with the leadership then. That's a perfect example of that magical pressure you mentioned. You've got the Alpha Pack leader, Luke Mendez, and the sources are clear. He actively dislikes rigid systems, hates titles.
Exactly. But the magic of the place, the inherent governing magic, it just keeps pointing him out. Identifies him as the Rerek, which basically just means Overking of Draoithe.
Yeah.
So he's the leader, whether he puts it on his business cards or not.
Right. And then the guy who kind of tripped the magical wire, the one who set this whole royal structure off, Duncan O'Sullivan, who they call Fox, head of intelligence. Seems like the quiet type, usually.
He is. But the magic identifies him as a Ruiri. That's a very specific, loaded title. And apparently, he unknowingly triggered this ancient kingdom magic just by being born touching druid magic. It's almost accidental. He's the unintentional spark that keeps pulling these old hierarchical roles into the present day.
So the system is literally building itself. Wow. And the hierarchy, it just starts expanding immediately, right? Defining the Rituath, the underkings. I remember reading the council figured out there can only be 21 kings total to fill the seats at their massive conference table, which suggests this huge Mortuath and Overkingdom is forming really fast.
And you see new people getting slotted into these underking roles by the magic. Not by appointment, but by magical designation. That includes Marchand, he's the Griffin Knight we'll talk more about, and also those powerful twin bear shifters, Scar and Jace. Again, these aren't inherited titles. They're just needs of the kingdom's magic being filled.
It ends up creating this full, maybe reluctant royal court. Even the big elemental spark, who's fire, flower, ice, cloud, they get designated Re-Bannock, and the red dragons who pledge loyalty, the ones willing to serve this new setup, they're immediately called Dragon Knights. It's just so clear the magic itself is the ultimate authority here.
Which brings us to a really key question about motivation. Okay, so you have this rigid, destiny-driven setup. Why would these super powerful, potentially eternal beings willingly sign up for service within it? Seems odd. But the sources give this, kind of profound reason. Apparently loneliness is the main thing that causes immortals to fade, to lose themselves.
Oh, wow. Okay, that totally reframes the idea of service then. So when an immortal takes on a role here, it's not just joining the army. It's almost like plugging into a life support system. Loneliness is the big enemy.
That seems to be the core idea.
Yeah.
And that's why you see dragons, actual dragons like Torch, Blue, and Flare, actively seeking this kind of servitude. The sources detail the oath process pretty vividly. It's intense. The oath only counts, it's only accepted after Luke, the Overking, literally cuts his own palm open with the Dragonite sword and then touches their shoulder, naming them a defender of the realm of Draoithe.
And that ritual, it creates this built-in security feature too, right? The swords, those blue forged steel swords the dragons have are magical. Only the one who first blooded it can wield it.
That's right. So since Luke is the only other person whose blood touched the blade during that oath, he's basically the only other being in the whole place who can even pick up these incredibly powerful weapons. It's a very literal bond of loyalty.
Makes sense. And this need for sanctuary, for a safe place, it also drove the new Underkings, those bear twins, Scar and Jace. They sold their ranch in California specifically to move to Draoithe. Scar's a dream walker, which is powerful enough, but his brother Jace is something else. He's a dream inverter.
Yeah, a dream inverter. And that sounds incredibly difficult to deal with in the normal world.
I imagine so. How does that even work?
Well, it's not just blocking out noise or thoughts. He seems to actively turn the emotional and mental noise of the outside world into this pure, crushing silence, which the sources say had basically crippled him before outside of very controlled spaces. So Draoithe, with its specific architecture, soundproof rooms, light-blocking features, it gives Jace exactly the kind of relief he physically needs. Moving there wasn't just a choice. It was almost a medical necessity for him.
Got it. Okay. And then there's Marchand, the Griffin Knight. His story is more about redemption, right? He was chasing the elementals under orders from his old clan. Pretty harsh orders, apparently.
Yes. But after he was captured, confined, he eventually apologized to Spark, the fire elemental. And he accepted this new role as ambassador. So he's basically trading a life potentially lived in disgrace for a new position, trying to rebuild his honor through service.
So interesting how everyone ends up there. So destiny, pure need, or this kind of forced second chance.
Definitely.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the defense system. The council voted unanimously to create these Sentinel gargoyles, which sounds, kind of classic fantasy until you dig into how they're made. This is where ancient magic crashes into modern tech.
Right. What really stands out is what these gargoyles do. They're described as practically indestructible stone statues, and they're built specifically to absorb and convert magic from other immortals, like druid fire, enemy spells, that sort of thing. They can either shoot it back out or just hold on to it, basically neutralizing intruders.
And the creation process is just wild. It's so specific. It blends magic and industrial production. The sources stress they need: custom design, 3D printed PVC molds, every gargoyle unique. Why 3D printing though? Why not just carve them traditionally out of stone? Seems weirdly high-tech.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But the specificity seems crucial. The molds have to create these really precise internal cavities for the heart piece, the eyes, the energy gems. Maybe traditional carving just couldn't guarantee the kind of internal structure needed for something that has to handle huge amounts of magical energy feedback. The magic's ancient, yeah, but the container needs to be, cutting edge, apparently.
Okay, that makes some sense. And the magical ingredients are intense, too. They need to destroy 3 dragon spears, cut them into 28 identical 7-inch pieces, and each piece contains the heart's blood of a powerful source. Wow, those pieces go into the gargoyles' chests.
Yep. And then the elementals get involved to actually bring them to life. Char grounds the stone, ice gives them movement, spark grants sentience, and then finally, all the elementals work together to seal them in fire. It's like a magical assembly line requiring immense coordinated power.
The shopping list for materials is just as detailed. Specific gemstones for the eyes and for energy absorption. Rubies, emeralds, sapphires, diamonds, obsidian, mother of pearl.
And even their power source depends on when they're on duty. Amethyst stores starlight for the daytime sentinels, and citrine stores sunshine for the nighttime ones. And importantly, there's a special opal stone needed just for the lead king and queen gargoyle pair. Highlights their command status, I guess.
Turns out these things mature fast too, only 5 days to fully wake up. And kind of echoing everything else in Draoithe, they're often made in male-female fated mate pairs, and they become super possessive of their territory and each other.
They're basically magical guard dogs built to protect this sanctuary of, other magical beings. They even have this key behavioral quirk: extreme claustrophobia. They have to turn back to stone if they're confined to their assigned territory, which means you can't just easily move them or, lock them up once they're activated and placed.
Okay, so this massive undertaking, this constant need for magical power, it obviously takes a toll. And it seems to impact the most personal relationships. Let's talk about Spark, the fire elemental, and Scar, the bear shifter.
Right. So Spark needs essentially limitless energy for the really big spells. Like sealing those gargoyles requires huge amounts of fire magic. So she willingly bonds Scar, the bear shifter, as her bound energy source.
Yeah, and the source material is pretty blunt about it. It notes Spark calls him her slave. That sounds intense. Is that term just like technical jargon for the energy bond? Or does it imply actual servitude?
It really seems to be used more like technical jargon for the specific magical contract they have. The bond gives her the unlimited sexual energy she needs for her magic. And in return, Scar gets these magenta rings in his eyes and becomes totally immune to her fire. So it's a transaction. A shocking one? Maybe, but seemingly mutual.
And the completely unexpected side effect of this bond is hybridization. Scar's influence accidentally turns Spark into a fiery cinnamon bear, creating a hybrid being she never planned on being.
Exactly. It further complicates her whole identity as, fire incarnate.
And this accidental hybrid thing, it happens again, doesn't it? With Marchand, the Griffin Knight, and his mate Layla. She was badly hurt, turned into a specific kind of vampire, a justice vampire.
Yes. And Marchand, in the act of saving her life, gripped her so hard with his talons that his griffin magic and blood accidentally mingled with her new vampire nature.
Wait, so he saves her life, but in doing so, he accidentally changes her fundamental nature. That's less like healing, more like a really bizarre magical side effect.
Pretty much. He accidentally turned her into a Gryfire hybrid, a griffin vampire. And now Marchand stays at Draoithe primarily to protect her, because he's afraid the outside world will just see her as a monster. So he basically traded his old allegiances, his old life, entirely for her safety.
Wow. Okay, and finally, we have to touch on consequences. What happens when someone threatens this place? The sources detail a pretty brutal reckoning for a character named Rake, the Breaker, for crimes against women there and elsewhere.
Yeah, this punishment served two purposes. First, Blaze, who used to be the Dragon Dungeon Master, and Grizz, a grizzly bear shifter. They interrogated and tortured Rake and actually got useful intel about the main villain, Elliot. But the final punishment was permanent. Rake is turned into Luke's eternal servant. He's stripped of his manhood and forced to wear this painful metal contraption where his genitals used to be. The message seems pretty clear. Just killing enemies is too merciful for those who really threaten Draoithe's core stability.
So wrapping this up for you, our listener, what does this all really tell us? Draoithe is this place where identity, fate, it's all incredibly fluid. But it's dictated less by personal choice and more by this powerful ancient magic. And this pressure cooker environment leads to, well, complex ways of governing, unexpected but necessary alliances, and a really high, often deeply intimate cost for safety and knowledge.
And if you connect all those dots, the huge magical demands of building this kingdom, especially things like the Gargoyle Project, Spark needing immense power, they require these intense personal bonds and sacrifices, whether that's through energy bonds like with Spark and Scar, or accidental hybridization, or even eternal servitude like Rake's punishment. The magic seems to demand connection, almost above everything else.
It really does. And that core idea we talked about earlier, the belief that loneliness is the primary cause of the fate in Immortals, that feels key. Given how many of these powerful beings seem to choose service or accept these intense bonds, or even put up with hybridization specifically to avoid being alone, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? It leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you to mull over. Does this kingdom's entire existence maybe rely less on its overking and its hierarchy, and more on that simple, almost desperate existential need these immortals have for connection?
Something to definitely think about.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. A special thank you to OK Music Writers for writing and sharing Enter the Dream. Thank you for your support. For more, visit opheliakey.com. Welcome to the dream. Sincerely, OK.